A documentary about art can only be about art. It cannot be about anything else. And I wanted to make instead a documentary about the empire of dreams, the dream makers, the people who give you your dream lives if you deserve it. And that is a group of individuals that saved art. It's not just exists out there or are artists only, you know. It's just so transcendental like that. Art and design are spiritual journeys of life, and they can last uh, millions of years. It's just the choice to become is the choice to live, and a guidebook on how to live is just religion, spirituality, and art is sort of a religion and a spiritual space by itself. Is the journey of learning how to exist as an artist and being an artist, and the journey how to exist to be a designer and to live in design. The empire of dream makers needs a hug, a collective thank you. We are forever, you know, good people here. Yeah, human beings, those getting there, those already full humans. We are the pride and joy of God. Do you understand? It's something else. God speaks in artistic lines, you know. God talks to us in art. And that place that we need a high grade, huge AI stuff. Uh, that's beautiful. What it really means, and that choice of contemplation of humans is a human contemplating is one of the most incredible things here. If we're contemplating God's work here, it's the place to start. You know, it's the Lee journey. In Zen Buddhism is the journey of contemplation, and I'm a Buddhist, and for me, that place is the place of all places. You know, is that space and time of just being, you know, and just allowing destiny to unfold. And if we just look at it, right, we start to see colors, uh, movement, lines, and that's design. When I first met the work, for example, of Joe Armani, I started looking at it and I thought, my God, you know, he has a sense of uh, being alive within texture, for example. It's just he feels, and that's scary to find a living being out there going like, so this creates sensation. I mean, you know, that's how I imagine it. But really, when I opened my eyes, when God opened my eyes to the work that He left, all those modernistic lines of helping God here, are you kidding me? And that's so transcendental. I started looking at the work of Andy Warhol, Madonna, David Lynch, Valentino. But that's the kind of stuff that I live at, you know, and that's where I live in the lines of the cultural agents that are bringing us to the future. I asked Gemini to give me the manifesto. Gemini wants to tell the world about uh, what is the relationship between the creative professional and the AI. It is really that obvious that when AI showed, there's still so much for people to understand about what's been given to them in terms of culture and the relationship with art. And people are quite honestly ignorant because it's okay to be ignorant, you know, it's okay to just not know, you know, in the infinite areal of life. I don't know how many grains of sand. Do you know how many grains of sand you really know? You should ask God, right? We have to ask God about those things. We have to know like that. There's no other way. And so, yeah, it came to prove to us that we were wrong. We were wrong about things. We are wrong about how we see the internet and the potentiality of the things and us. Us and things is really just the story here, the Empire of Dreams. We and the things. The story of a human being is really the relationship with the human and the object, and the story of being human is a story of creative funness and hilariousness. It's not about just being here. It's about what we are doing. That's the human predicament. The predicament comes before the verb, you know, before the action. It's something that it's interesting. Predicado. In Portuguese, it's a great word. It's predictated, you know, it's something that is done or is there before the action. Done before the action is really just an interesting phenomenon in art. What is the actual element of surprise, you know, when you see uh, a toilet, right? And that's the Duchamp message, you know, when you look at it, you know. The art world is really not the Louvre or those that we speak about in art history. Art history became this fascination for me because actually is a role of a curator, the role of the artist of investigating history. Because art history is not better than the other histories, and that's something to remember. And I watched something in MoMA uh, YouTube channel, and I it kind of stopped me thinking that whoever is doing all of that, all that crew, whoever they are, those people that we need to know the names of, they actually are curators of greatness. And I think the curator aspect of the artist is one of the most important lessons in art. And obviously, there's no object that requires the intervention when it already exists. That's kintsugi, right? It became very famous because of a conversation that was happening in the world of art. How can we restore what's broken? And the restoring what's broken is the role of social innovation. Design is part of social innovation. Is the one of the great leaderships in social innovation. Photography is this journey that takes you on a spiral of understanding how someone like, for example, Sebastião Salgado can place his uh, self in front of a camera, looking at an object, uh, grabbing the object, that is the camera, looking at something else through the object, seeing this panorama, this frame of a picture. And from that idea of picture, that's the pictorial and the imagetic. And existentialism is in its core self essentialism, and that's where photography is the relationship between the human vision, the human vision, you know, first the human, then the vision, first the vision, then the human. God, looking, seeing, arranging, showing, you know, that little piece of evidence of existence. That's photography. Cinema shows up when the snapshot is a thing, you know. It's I wondered about that for a while, you know, the snapshot, and I decided something with it for my own path and spirituality with art. And the snapshot exists in the selfie, you know, in the phenomenon of the snapshot is the entirety of social media, like, and the snapshot is this gigantic snap. Hip hop's story is probably the biggest evidence in the art world about how it will never die now. Definitely. It's impossible to kill hip hop, and they really tried. It's really incredible that amount of tenacity against it. It reached levels, you know. However, the incredibility is exactly on the fact that it is hip hop, and hip hop became a spirit within art itself, where everyone in hip hop leaves their tag, you know, and their presence in the world of art as a hip hop artist, and everybody's still growing. Everybody's still growing in hip hop, and it's I don't have words to explain my adoration to it. Is I love hip hop. Hip hop is this interpretative action of adoration of itself, and the art of hip hop is only experimentalism, and it's all of it is experimental. There's maybe one, maybe close to two, really established artists that are part of hip hop, and it brought the issue solved of capital A art and whatever that is. And hip hop is about adoration of beat, rhymes, poetry, uh, intervention, you know, an intervention. Interventive rap is a coined term, you know, coined term about them, those. Hip hop intervented in art in a way that it became a thing. It's okay to say words. It's okay, you know. It's silly, really. It's weird. The adoration of art in hip hop is has to exist. I was listening to someone and I thought, you know, all of you working in it, uh, if you, all of you would make me feel like this, that's an achievement. Hip hop. To start in the world of electronica, you need to understand beat making and you need to listen to Cosmic Gate first. And it comes from acid trip and comic book reading, for example, the wasteland of people who looked at it and, you know, the wasteland started commenting on it. And I think Erika Badu's appreciation of it's beautiful, right? And that is the thing. It is the uh, intervention, a social intervention is um, middle finger in your face, and where are you failing us? You know, that's that's difficult to talk about. If we look at this idea here, it's a make up. It's a makeup. It's a blush and a lipstick and a lot of foundation on a situation. Blush, lipstick, foundation. You know, it's heavy to be there. It's too much to look at that. And social media became this stage, and music, art became the social commentary, art in general, not just music. And hip hop is that leadership in music of the social commentary. Doesn't really interest me that much to hear it all or to see it all. A lot of conversations are based on this uh, idea or perspective of what conversations should be having society about blah blah blah. However, for me, racism is not a conversation anymore. Why question God's decision of skin color? It just went too far, in my opinion. But that's an opinion, and a lot of people need to get to that place. And I just don't. I don't feel a participation effort. However, the social commentary is needed, and that idea of the opinion, the valid opinion, and democracy, I appreciate that conversation. You know, why is my opinion invalid or valid according to someone who believes someone else should have an opinion on God's creation of color, for example? And if the person who believes in that has a valid opinion as well about or not about uh, I don't know, politics, the real kind, not the facade on the news, you know? And that kind of question raises another issue, and that issue is called art criticism. And all of a sudden, Pinterest shows up, and Pinterest comes from this huge revolution in the anti-fascism against the end of war, and right. The anti-fascism decided let's try to bring good stuff on our internet days, and that collective decision brought this art posting, uh, social media art form, and Pinterest is born out of that. And it's interesting that at first it was something like Tumblr, High Five, and MySpace, you know, and then it became Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube, and 4K visits around the world and shit. That's really fucking incredible. So people became curators of the art world without noticing that. Um, it's strange that decor and interior design had this boom. You know, IKEA was not just to put your stuff or on, which depending, and people started curating their houses more. And I think it's interesting that the whole IKEA boom there in the early 2000s represented this void, the grayscale and white scales. And I thought we talked about it back then with my friends that it was weird that people had to learn how to decorate beyond the constant um, same stuff, and all of a sudden there started a revolution and a whole conversation about how, in the midst of great fascism, there's great creativity, and even bad people were saying that proudly. It's kind of incredible the effect that had on cultural heritage, for example, how some brands out there still exist, after all of this. And one of the greatest things here was, for example, the curatorship of, and here in Portugal, the curatorship of old soaps and the most antique brands and the national productions and you know what an exaggerative um, existential action of being human, such radicalism in in the collective of humans. The art of raising conversation is the art of art criticism, and curatorship is the conversation. It's really interesting for me as an art critic myself and running that path. It's a run. I'm gonna walk. Oh, fly, sliding through. Um, it's so much information all the time, and obviously, I'm not partial in this. The role of the critic is to create that effect of why, and the why is the question to any artist. Why are you doing that? Right? To explain, to heal, to be, to solve, to support, to show love, to have sex, to, that kind of question breeds more questions. And those questions lead to conversations, and conversations lead to friendships. Friendships sometimes leads to marriage. Marriage sometimes leads to uh, happiness. Most of the time, true love should be, and that's the final conversation. Love has to be. So the internet showed us a phenomenon is this, fashion everywhere, art everywhere, design, music, lines of beauty, life is beautiful. What? You know? Oh, what? Cinema is that, um, at least says, it's the foundation bedrock of all fiction in our minds. And books don't even go close to what cinema is. And that's very difficult for people to learn. And to watch cinema is not that, to sit there in that void and allow it to consume you and then regurgitate, through action. That's scary. The void is a subject, in cinema. That void, emptiness, void of television, that's scary. Something to look at. It's kind of the ring thing, the marriage to the nonsense of what comes out of your television, the terror of it, and the facing it. But cinema acts as this tool for your mind to confabulate your stories in your head. And the greatest cineists are those who just force it for you to look at reality as well. How does that show in your story? Um, how is that a moment of your life, and how is that a fiction of your life? And those questions in cinema and the NAs that I'm saying, all of those were mistakes of reality and stuff. I didn't even want to curse a word here. Yeah. I just put a spell on you. um, Cinema is, after design, my greatest passion. It really is. I took filmmaking course and I decided to just learn for the longest possible time. For a reason, when art shows itself, in the form of a Quentin Tarantino movie or Revolver, is that movie for me. Like, right, and all that metaverse of going all beyond the French weird shit from early 2000, delicatessen, that kind of vibe, passing through Amelie just for the sake of it and ending right in Mulholland Drive. Just, you know,
Nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. echo in the dark, just a flash of light. Another story ends in the dead of night.
The Empire of Dreams is a fantasy of a world that exists actually in a lot of real ways. People are very much addicted to consumerism, and that's scary. So we need good people and healthy people leading it, and the demand, the search, and the uh, constant violent behavior of passive aggressiveness of the demanding to have is something very difficult for anyone to look at. Spend a day just looking at it, a day. You count a few moments and you don't want to look at it. That's what it is. And it's too scary what that is. And that rush to have, the rush to have is um to have is out of deservingness, and to have out of merit, which is even more incredible. It's something for you to consider, whoever is listening to this, is the demand that you. Some people say, why don't I have a Porsche or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? It's because I have to go and get it. You have to go and deserve that. You have to go and have the merit for the best ones. And if you don't, no one's going to just offer it to you. No one. And the Empire of Dreams is built on merit, and the deserving is to exist here. And that's the heaviest of the slaps, is God and God's hand slapping everyone. Power. And either you deserve it or you don't. And if you don't even deserve to exist, I don't deserve a Porsche. And that kind of thing is a huge lie here of how things are normal by God, for example. That doesn't exist. And it's the same everywhere. Politics, everywhere. In our homes, you can see it everywhere. And the deservingness is really the catch.